This is going to get rough at the end.
Hey everybody, it's Loctavian here. We are in the finals of the Lore Sports, the tournament where we discover which Daedric Prince truly is the greatest of all time, while debating with the fabulous Avron Doodles from UESP and Lotus of Doom from the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, which you can find links to in the description below. We are about to find out which Daedric Prince truly is the GOAT. If you're interested in what happened in the preliminaries, you can find links to both those videos in the description as well. Before we get on to the finals, if you can take just a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, it would really help us out in making future amazing lore content like this. Round 2, we now have much more difficult matchups because we're going to have G.O.A.T taking on Meridia, Azura taking on Boethiah, Hermamora taking on Mephala, and Daddy Dagon taking on Vermina. That brings us back to G.O.A.T against Meridia.
All right, I'm going to go a little quickly because I feel like all the points have already been made. G.O.A.T, and here's why. It's already established in lore. Like, yeah, okay, he's kind of silly, but it is established in lore that the other Daedric princes fear his cunning. He has been known to trick them. The 16 Accords of Madness have proven that he can trick all of the other princes. So he is so scary that, like, Meridia has a lot going for her, but I think at the end of the day, G.O.A.T is going to come out as top dog. Like, he's so clever, and he's so, like, you don't even know what he's doing. Like, you have no idea what he's even doing and what he's trying to achieve. I think in the long run, that is way more powerful than anything Meridia can pull off, and I'm voting for G.O.A.T.
And I think this just will sum up why I think G.O.A.T wins. A change is coming. Everything changes. Even Daedric princes. Especially Daedric princes.
Yes.
So I'm just going to use that quote and move G.O.A.T along here.
It's going to be interesting. So obviously you two are for G.O.A.T, and I definitely understand the reasoning because G.O.A.T, although goofy, is way more threatening than many realize. And on the flip side of the situation, G.O.A.T is kind of all over the map, but very terrifying and has 9,000 different plays. Meridia also she's very focused. And again, she manipulates many situations to her advantage. It's not going to matter because, again, we got the 2 votes for G.O.A.T. But this is one of these fights where I could actually see a coin flip going to either of them. If you were to come down to a power struggle, I feel like it could go either way. And then whichever plan they go for, I could again see this going either way. I'm kind of glad you two agree because I would make a terrible tiebreaker for this one because I'm not sure I would have a solid answer to which one of these two I could see winning. I'm not upset that G.O.A.T wins, but I also wouldn't have been upset if Meridia had won. I could see this I think is one of the closest of them so far.
I think these are all going to be hard.
Yeah, Azura, but Azura's taking on Boethiah.
As much as I personally prefer Azura, and I think Azura is a very cool Daedric Prince, the biggest strength of Boethiah is just the raw brutality. If Boethiah just were to savagely attack Azura's followers, for example, that I feel would break Azura more than I think that it would hinder Boethiah. And Boethiah doesn't give a crap. It's like, yeah, no, kill yourselves, kill them, kill everybody, whatever. If it's going to get her to where she needs to go. I get the impression that Boethiah, in a situation like this, be able to use the removal she has of compassion and abuse Azura's over compassion on many things to, like, win one of these scenarios personally.
I mean, I think you make a good point, Lotus, too. I think if it was like a full-fledged attack, yeah. But, I mean, Azura has shown that she's so malicious and that her grudges don't die. Just even the tribunal with Nerevar. I mean, that's like an example of someone like attacking someone that she absolutely loved, right? And now it just grew into this whole like, oh, Like, you know what, that's fine. Like, go do your thing, play God. I'm coming for you at the end. And she stuck to it, which makes me think like, yeah, Boethia could do whatever she wants. But in the end, Azura doesn't forget. And she certainly does not forgive. I want to vote for her just for that. But at the same time, like Boethia's plotting, like I think that she just has a slight edge. So I think I'm just going to give it to Boethia and save myself.
I'm also going to give it to Boethia by a sliver. Boethia is the deceiver of nations for a reason.
Yeah.
And Boethia
Plots on plots.
plots on plots, and just doesn't stop. Where like Azura is cruel, there is compassion, and if Boethia is like dead set on something, it generally happens. And I think that tenacity edges out Azura in the fight. Hermamora taking on Mephala.
A wise man once said, "Knowledge is power," and if that's true, I've really got to give it to Mora because I just think he's so strong as a Daedric Prince. Like it's so hard to compete with him. I mean, and he's so enticing to mortals just for the unknown, and everyone wants to know things, and he has that pull, and Mephala's got a lot going for her. But I think between the two of them, I'm just gonna say I think it's Mora. I mean, hands down.
We gave a lot of consideration to Mephala because mortals don't know Mephala's fear. Hermamora has nothing I can think of where Hermamora has ever been tricked, for one, and two, while we're giving credit to Mephala for what we don't know and assumptions, Hermamora is very out there with what he does know and can do, and I would have to give it to the Daedric Prince, who I know exactly what they can do, than the one that probably is doing a lot. But like Hermamora doesn't have to hide or sneak anything to be as powerful as he is. So I have to give it to Herma.
The situation at hand is Mephala has a lot of these intricate plans. The web spinner is the idea of all these plots. But when you're dealing with somebody or something that's the concept essentially of knowledge, I don't know how you outsmart that. And that's the crux of Mephala. There's very little room where I could see her getting away with anything that he didn't already know 7 steps before even Mephala did.
Pretty clear victory for Hermamora. Rune's Dagon versus Vaemina. We talked about Vaemina, about nightmares. Now nightmares are scarier than parties, but when Vaemina needs to face somebody as calculating and long plays, and as we already mentioned, wins even when he loses in the case of Dagon, I don't see how nightmares, as scary as they may be, as much pain as they may have caused here and there over the eras, can stand up to somebody who's come very, very close a number of times to getting his way. Like the Oblivion Crisis was like down to like a hair play at the very end to not like succeed. And I don't think Vaemina's ever done anything quite on that level. So it's kind of an easy pass for Dagon.
I'm not going to counter that. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, no competition. I think Dagon is Tamriel's worst nightmare.
So our semifinals, Geograph versus Boethia.
We're back to another one of these, like somebody who is organized with the planning and power in Boethia, and you've got Sheogorath, which is, powerful in his own insanity so far. Another scenario where it kind of makes me wonder, is it more of a toss-up than it might seem? Boethia's focus here is usually just like strength through, power and survivability and all these things. What is Sheogorath going to do that would ever phase Boethia? It would come down to a situation where I wonder, would this be the first time Sheogorath's off-the-wall insanity actually backfires against him? Because would he have a clear focus in a situation where the other person is unfazed by whatever you throw at them, no matter how insane? I actually think that Boethia might win this situation just based on the fact that I'm not sure what would ever phase her off of winning the situation. I can't think of a reason she would lose this head-to-head scenario, personally.
I think this is tough, but I almost want to go with Shio. just because, like, yeah, okay, I know he gets a rep for like just being crazy and murdering things, which, like, yeah, and Boethia is like, cool, like, go for it. And someone made a good point too, like, Shio could probably burn the whole world down, and Boethia be like, meh, all right. I think there's something to be said for Shio's unpredictability. And
That's
a lot
true.
of, I really feel like if there was a situation and he just did something so off the wall, like, I think there's a reason why, he's other princes are on edge around him. And I think the Accords of Madness kind of proves that, like, he just has this way of kind of like just slipping in the win in like the most unexpected ways, because he kind of plays off of a lot of the other prince's vanities. I think his cunning would win out. I don't know what his cunning against Boethia would look like, because I don't think we have a really good example of that in the lore as is. But I just think he would surprise us. I think he would pull something out and surprise us. And I really think that Boethia, for everything she has going for her, she would not know how to react. And I think that's where Shio would win. So that's my opinion. So I would go with Shio.
This one is really super close, and I really want to go with Shogarth. Can Boethia handle that unpredictability? I think Boethia has consistently handled unpredictability in a lot of ways in like various lores. Boethia fought Demon King Molog to a draw when he attacked the lattice along with Dagon and Marinunda. Boethia's actions allowed Azura to shackle Molog. She also fought Noctra until it knew it was not Namira. The fact that Boethia is credited, like whether that happened or not, is credited with so many things like insurmountable odds fighting a Demon King along with Dagon, or separating Namira from Noctra, things like this. Like the things that Boethia gets credited for doing are so insurmountable. While Sheogarth might be unpredictable and do something Boethia never ever thought of, Boethia has consistently been faced with those odds, and that's why I give the edge to Boethia here. The other semifinal match, Hermaeus Mora, Maroon's Dagon.
This is my hill to die on, or my giant potato mountain with tentacles to die on here in this case. Being that I kind of made the outrageous assumption that maybe Dagon wins just because we don't know how this all plays out, I'm going to need to basically backtrack my way through this if I intend to counter my own point. And the reason I want to say that I still think in this situation, to the surprise of, I'm assuming, no one, I actually think, even though I made the argument for you don't really know with Dagon whether you've won or not, it's the situation from how Hermaeus Mora describes himself. The door unopenable, the book unreadable, the question unanswerable. Hermaeus Mora is constantly scrying the tides of fate, of past and future, to read the stars in the heavens. Theoretically, he has the potential to know whether Dagon was supposed to succeed or fail, and manipulate that in a way that his success or failure is actually part of what he should be scrying for to begin with. So since he has that knowledge, or the potential for that knowledge, wouldn't he be able to manipulate the scenario to make that work to his favor? So it's really a problem of who, I guess until you reach literally the end of time, who do you know which one of these two has actually won this? Because if it looks like Dagon won, well, is it actually Hermaeus Mora setting it up? And if it looks like Hermaeus Mora won, wait, was that actually Dagon failing for the sake of trying to further his own situation? So this situation, as much as I love Hermaeus Mora, is borderline a stalemate. If he's made from the scraps of creation from previous Kalpas, can you beat something that's literally made of the collapse of time itself? What are you supposed to do to that? Because he can see all of these outcomes, in theory at least. So that's why I would say that just in that situation, as over the top as Dagon is, would even that be able to beat Hermaeus Mora in this situation?
Knowledge, like, it's true. Like, if you can see what's coming, that's really powerful. But sometimes even knowing what's coming, you can't always stop it. And Dagon kind of has brute force on his side, I think. Like, he may not be the best thinker, but he's definitely an action maker. I wouldn't say that like Mora is just all about let me just endlessly strive for knowledge. He's obviously working with the knowledge he gets. I mean, that's kind of his whole thing. I feel like I could just flip a coin and this could go either way, to be honest. I mean, I want to side with Mora because I think there's more coming from him.
I can't make a decision based on like Mehrunes is like this, but Herma might know, but Dagon's more direct. I'm just going to go with the fact that as cool as Mehrunes' Razor and the Deadlands Hammer and things like that are, Black Books in Ogma and Fidium are far more powerful. So I'm just going to go straight by the artifacts you get in the games and go with Herma. We do have a final. It is Boethiah versus Hermaeus Mora.
This is a tough one.
I mean, at this point, we've discussed both of these Daedric Princes up through the previous 3 rounds, so they've kind of been really fleshed out. It's which of these previous arguments would you just feel would be the one to pull it off here? And much in the same way that I would have the same problem if Dagon had basically beaten Mora, when you have this Mora situation, it's going to be tricky to understand what exactly is Boethiah going, like Hermaeus Mora equally does not give a crap about people, whether they're his followers or not, if it's going to block him from getting what he desires. The whole murder factor that Boethiah has actually probably been able to utilize before is actually equally utilized because Hermaeus Mora has an obsessive desire for knowledge. So that's his only goal. Boethiah's goal is obsession for power and proving yourself. Okay, well, if it comes down to both of them, just their goal is what they're going for, who has the most at their disposal? Well, one of you has the ability to scry the fates of time and all this stuff. It's like, what is she ever going to do to him that he wouldn't already know and probably have some degree of counter to? I don't really know how you fight that. He's like a giant walking like MacGuffin.
Here I come with the underdog vote for Boethiah.
All right.
Even after I voted against Daddy Dagon. I voted against Daddy Dagon because he is very, very direct. Already mentioned how Dagon and Boethiah had squared off at one time, and Boethiah came out the victor in that battle. If this had come down to Boethiah and Dagon, I would have already put Boethiah above Dagon, which is why I give Boethiah an edge here, and that's because Boethiah has taken on insurmountable, unpredictable odds, which is why I gave Boethiah the edge on Geograph, but also Boethiah can bide her time. So if Hermaeus Mora and Boethiah squared off and Hermaeus Mora is coming out on top, Boethiah has proven the ability to change circumstances, influence minds and followers, become stronger and come back. I'm going to go full Rocky on this one. If they were squaring off once, I think Herma Mora would Apollo Boethiah, but I think in the long run Boethiah figures out how to come out on top, and I'm going to give the vote to Boethiah. Avron, it's up to you to decide who comes out in this battle here.
Oh no.
Wow. No
And
pressure
in
or
the
anything.
final round. Oh. You both made such good points, and they're both valid. And at the end of the day, if you're immortal, you don't want any Daedric Prince to win. I think if I'm just thinking of this, like if I put myself in the shoes of Immortal and Tamriel, and I'm being forced to choose between which Daedric Prince must I abide and live with for the rest of time. Both options are equally sucky. I would rather like hit the red eject button or get the scroll of Icarian Flight and nope out of there. But like if I think about like who I would rather like spend more time with, it would be Mora. Both options are terrible. They're bad, right? Boethiah and her followers, like they could literally backstab you for sport. I mean, look at Dragonstar Arena. Like Hyeth has been her champion for so long, and some new people come around. She's like, "Oh, sorry, Hyeth." Whereas if you go to, Hermaeus Mora's round, you will literally lose your mind for other reasons. But I mean, and I think the only way my vote's going to come down for Mora is for a really silly reason, and it's just that I like his Daedric realm more. At the end of the day, I'd rather go there, and if that's what it's going to come down to, because both of these princes are equally valid, I mean, whatever. I did it. I mean, like, they're so valid, and I really hate to have Lotus win with his Mora love. I would say Mora wins for me by 0.1%. Like, it's almost nothing.
Between Sheogorath, Boethia, Meridia, Dagon, and Mora, I mean, you could have really just, there's no such thing as a 5-sided coin, but you could have flipped that and I could have seen any of those popping out as the like victor. So I'm just going to take this as divine intervention that Mora was meant to win.
No matter who you had, you could have had different arguments for different princes, which is the cool thing about them. So it was really interesting to hear Lotus's thoughts, and I came with my own too. So
no, this was super fun.
Yeah, it was so great. Thanks so much for having me on, Loctavian. I love to talk lore, so this was great.
Yes.
Appreciate both of you being willing to do this, because you have lore podcasts and you have a bunch of these things that are very hardcore lore. And what I wanted to do was something that was lore based, but like a sports tournament, definitely very different, because like something that was just kind of out of the box, like this is never going to happen. The 16 Daedra are never going to get into a March Madness. So I thought it was kind of a unique approach to it.
I love this format. I want to debate some other things this way now.
Right?
So I'm glad you both had a lot of fun. So if I can come up with some other things like this, I'll definitely reach out to both of you. Please check out their channels, follow them, check out both of the podcasts. The UESP podcast, which Avron's not on, but is a great podcast as well. UESP channel. Check out all those things. They're wonderful. Thank you again both for being here. And I really appreciate you both. And there you have it. We have determined the greatest Daedric Prince of all time to be Hermaeus Mora. Stay tuned in the future when we discover other amazing things through these fabulous lore sports. You can catch that all and more at twitch.tv/Loctavian. Hope you've enjoyed. Leave your opinion of the Daedric GOAT in the comments below, and I'll see you next time.